So this is my book, She's Got This. It's a children's book. And it's about a little girl named Zoe, which is my middle name. And she does gymnastics. And this is like her story. So. Also, shout out to Nina Mata, who did the artwork for this. Because it's just... She captured my energy when I was a little kid. So, I'm going to turn this way and see if that works. Okay. They even got her curls and everything. Alright. Are you guys ready? Okay, here we go. Every day before school, Zoe watched the birds perched in the tree outside her bedroom window. I'll make sure you can see everything. She loved the way they hopped and bounced on the branches. She loved the way they flew. Yay. This book is almost as big as I am. She ate her morning cereal. Something on TV caught Zoe's eye. A gymnast was dancing along a beam, flipping and spinning and landing with her arms out, flying for real. Yeah. Zoe wanted to do that too. Her dad took her shopping for a leotard. Her mom drove her to her first gymnastics class. Fun fact, I did wear like a big yellow tee when I first started gymnastics. We have pictures of it somewhere. Zoe loved stretching, tumbling, and swinging on the bars, but her favorite thing of all was the balance beam. Zoe learned to turn and to jump, light as a bird on a branch. Other kids in class wobbled, but not Zoe. I wobbled a lot when I was a kid. Soon Zoe was ready to fly, just like the gymnast on TV. She stood at the end of the beam and gripped it with her toes. She lifted her arms, and then she leaped. For a moment, Zoe flew. Then she hit the mat with a thump. Zoe's knee hurt, her shoulder hurt, her head hurt, and inside, her heart hurt too. Oh. That night, Zoe told her parents she didn't want to go back to gymnastics class. Because you fell? Her dad asked. When you were learning to walk, you'd fall down and get right back up. But Zoe didn't remember learning to walk. She did remember hitting the mat with a thump. You guys hear whimpering? That's my dog, like, scratching at the door. One time I fell running a race, her older brother said. Then I picked myself up. You can't let a fall make you quit. But Zoe's brother was big and she was little. I fall all the time in karate, her older sister told Zoe. That's part of what we do. Learn to fall without getting hurt. But falling had hurt, and Zoe didn't want to fall again. Oh. Let's go out, Zoe's mom said. Go out, asked her dad. Why? To celebrate, said her mom. Celebration meant ice cream with hot fudge and sprinkles. That's cute. What are we celebrating? Asked Zoe's brother. Zoe's first fall, said Zoe's mom. It's good news. I have a story about that after this. How is falling good news? Each fall makes you better, Zoe's mom told her. Now you have to try again. Maybe you'll fall, but maybe not. You won't know unless you try. A tiny bird soared over Zoe's head. Oh. The next week, Zoe went back to gymnastics. She did somersaults and cartwheels, she turned flips, and she danced along the beam. Sometimes she fell off, but every time she did, she got right back on. After several weeks, Zoe's class put on a show for all the families. When it was Zoe's turn, she hopped up on the beam. She paused and lifted her arms and her chin. Her parents smiled, and her brother and sister cheered. Her coach nodded. Zoe breathed deeply. In a moment, she would jump in the air. She didn't know if she would fall or if she would land safely, but she knew one thing. She was ready to fly. Yay! That's my favorite Leo, by the way. And then on the back, there's a little excerpt that I wrote that I could go ahead and read that out too. But As a gymnast, I've fallen more times than I can count. At first, every fall felt like a failure. I thought it meant that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't meant to be a competitive athlete. Then I realized that falling is how you learn. What matters isn't how often you fall, but how often you get back up. Even as an Olympian, I still feel scared when I try something new, inside or outside of the gym. But I never let fear hold me back, and neither should you. Because no matter what your dreams are, they're worth all the falls in the world, because eventually you'll fly. You got this. So that's She's Got This. If you guys have any questions about the book, about me, about fun stuff, go ahead and ask away. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys, and especially my little nuggets out there who were listening, I hope you really liked the book. And at the end, we have some pictures of me doing gymnastics when I was a little kid. That's that yellow t-shirt I was talking about. But, yeah, I remember just being so excited that there was a children's book that somebody had hair like I did, because a lot of the books that I had read when I was a kid just didn't look like me. And it's not something you really pick up on, I guess, when you're a kid, but you definitely notice, at some point you're gonna be like, wait a second, I'm a little different, and that can be really tough. So I hope that book is a little representation, especially for my curly-headed kids out there. So the book isn't read backwards. I think the screen is just flipped, which is probably tough. But I swear I read it normally. Okay, why did I start to become a gymnast? I started to become a gymnast because I saw 2 Olympians on TV when I was little, and I pointed to the screen and I told my mom I wanted to be like them, and she said, okay. And she put me in. What was the hardest skill I had to learn? Bars has always kind of been a pain in my butt. I think that's always been something that I'd struggled with. I'm trying to think. The hardest skill that I had to learn was probably a front giant. I mean, don't pay too much attention to this story. Everybody who has kids, cover their ears, because I did a front giant to make elite, and then I never did it again. But we did find other, basically what had happened was you need a front grip, because normally you swing this way. You needed a front grip. It's a requirement, and we did the bare minimum and then learned something else, because that's what worked for us. Aww. If I could go back and change something, what would it be? I don't think I would change anything, because you can't go back, so. Jess, thanks for reminding me. What was the fudge sundae story? So, basically what had happened was I was at my first Elite Nationals, which was in 2012, and I went and I fell like 3 and 4 and 5 times all compiled together within that weekend, and it just was not a good meet. I mean, I was just really intimidated. I was nervous. The equipment was on a podium, so I think that was different. The lights, the people, and I had been nervous for meets, but not as nervous as I was there, and I wasn't used to it, so I fell a lot, and it happens. And I remember my mom coming to find me after the meet and saying, like, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, I fell, like, I did bad, like, yada yada. And she was like, okay, you have every reason to be upset and frustrated. It's okay to feel those things, but also you should be really grateful and proud of where you are, because there are so many gymnasts who would love to be at this competition and be right where you are right now. So I want to celebrate this with you. Let's go get ice cream. And my mom had taken me to go get some ice cream, and that was awesome. That was everything. Hannah Ross said, am I sad the Olympics it's postponed? I think it threw everybody off, probably. I mean, the most important thing is that everybody's safe. Clearly, it's global. It's a pandemic, and I think that postponing it makes it as fair as possible for the athletes. But at the same time, it's hard, because athletes from, not just in gymnastics, but in other sports, we learn to peak at a certain time. We plan our training schedules that way we peak at a certain time. And that schedule kind of gets messed with when when things like this change, especially something as big as the Olympics. So I really think the biggest thing is just being proactive and staying home, but still moving, you know, and being really respectful of other people and knowing that we stay in to flatten the curve and we do it to protect other people. Even if you think like, oh, I'll be fine, I won't get it, somebody else might. So it's about being respectful. And I think postponing the Olympics carries a lot of that weight and caring for the world first. Let's see this question. That looks like a fun question. Dave Hensel said, do Olympians hang out with each other outside of their respective disciplines? Like, it would be so cool to hang out and share with other medalists and learn from each other's experiences. So, I have done it before. There are some that I'm just naturally friends with. Like, me and Allie will FaceTime and we talk all the time. And then there are some athletes, like, I don't know, me and Chloe Kim hung out and, like, got burgers one day. And it's fun. But there's one event that I went to. I'm a Toyota athlete, so I remember going to this event and sitting down with the athletes and just being able to meet athletes that I didn't even think I would have a chance to sit down and talk with. I remember going to different banquets and galas for different sponsors. I remember meeting Lakey Peterson and asking her how she even does surfing. I was like, listen, my equipment doesn't move. I don't know how you do that. And there's so many athletes that I admire and I think are mind-blowing and I respect a lot. So I think that's always fun. It's weird that I'm in the mix of that. It hasn't hit me yet. What are some of your injuries that you've had to recover from? I've had a couple. I think my main one being just the full year of 2014. In January, I fractured my growth plate in my right wrist, and that really stunk, and I was out for a few months. And then that same year, in June, I dislocated my knee, and I tore a tendon, and I had to get surgery. And actually, I can probably, like, show you the scars here, but I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, they cut open, like, right here. And I got a piece of a cadaver, and then I was good as new. So, that's cool. Okay, Catherine asked, how do I get past my fears, and do I have any tips? So, having mental blocks and being afraid of skills or certain events, it's totally normal. It happens to the best of us. Olympians just as much as anybody else. I think the biggest thing is being okay with being afraid and knowing that it's okay to be afraid, and then somehow willing your body to go ahead and do it anyways, because the first one is always kind of the scariest. But I remember coming back recently, a couple weeks ago, and doing a skill. It's called a Rikna. It's a Stalder Tkachev. And I was terrified. I remember just being scared to try it because a couple weeks earlier, I tried to go for it, and I blocked. I backed out. I balked. And I didn't let go of the bar, but I still had the momentum of it, so I was scared of doing that again. And I just remember being nervous, and one of my teammates was standing underneath the bar, and she said, just tell me what you're afraid of. Don't hold it in here. Just tell me everything, even if it's irrational, even if... Like, my thing was, I was so scared of putting it out into the world of what I was afraid of, and she was like, no, you're getting it out so you don't have to hang on to it anymore. And I was like, honestly, I'm afraid of landing on the bar. I'm afraid of not letting go of the bar. I'm afraid that when I'm upside down, I'm not going to know what I'm doing. And I just started listing off everything. And as soon as I was done, and she was like, good, I'm holding that for you now. You don't have to worry about any of those things. You know what you're doing. You're going to be okay. And sure enough, I went up for the first one, and I was underneath the bar. And that's kind of the scariest part, because right then and there, like, you can't stop mid-skill. And I was underneath the bar, and it was as I was scooping under, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I shot up and I hit my hands on the first one after not doing it for about 4 years. So that was really comforting, but I hope that helps. So I guess to answer fully your question, speak your fears out loud to somebody and let them hold it so you don't have to. And that helps a lot with mental blocks. Okay. Let's see. So Misty said, we're going to be out of the gym out of gym forever. Haven't been out of gym longer than a week. What is the best way to stay brave and strong? All right, so state of California was shut down. Not shut down. That's a harsh way of putting it. Everyone's kind of strongly demanded to stay inside. It's not okay to go out unless you're doing grocery shopping or grabbing gas. So training has been a bit of an interesting one for me lately. So I know that there's a lot of athletes out there that they're struggling because their gym is closed. And that's a really scary feeling because a lot of times we use gymnastics as our outlet. That's our place to just put the walls down and be ourselves. And when that's taken away, it's like, oh man, how else am I supposed to do things? Just because you're not at a gymnastics facility doesn't mean that you have to stop moving. And if you don't want to do some crazy like HIIT workouts and gymnastics conditioning, that's okay. But to be moving is still, having that freedom and movement and taking care of your body. And I think just keeping that mindset and doing some visualizations of your skills could be really helpful because we don't know how long we're going to be in this because the world comes first. So it's also making sure that we can take care of ourselves, and I think a lot of that means staying connected. We got a lot of questions coming in. This is a lot of fun. I'm going to be on for about 5 or so minutes, so ask away. How do you focus on an event when you're afraid in a competition? Also, how do you stay fit and not forget what you're doing? Okay, so that's an interesting question. Focusing on an event when you're afraid in competition. So my brain, I get really anxious before I compete. Once I'm on the equipment, I'm okay, because that's the best part. But the right before makes me very uncomfortable. And so I've been told that, when you get so nervous you can't remember anything, that's called flooding. Your brain just, too much is going on, you can't pin a thought. And the best way to, at least for me, to help with that is to ground and to close my eyes, to feel my feet on the floor and to take a deep breath. And a lot of that is fidgeting too, because it's that extra movement, and me putting energy into that movement stops me from being in here. So if you see me playing with my hands a lot, my fingers can kind of get cold, so rubbing them together. It's really just finding ways to take your feet and yank them back down so you can feel grounded again. So that helps a lot. What is your favorite event? My favorite event currently is beam. It's the easiest for me, and it's the one I feel most confident on when I'm competing, which is weird because it didn't used to be like that. And floor, because I like dancing. What age did I start training for the Olympics? I started gymnastics when I was 5, but I really wanted to go when I was about 9, probably. Do I have any pre-performance rituals? Again, kind of going back to being anxious before I compete. I told my mom that I felt like I couldn't stand up and I had jello legs. And she told me that her mom told me, my grandma, hey grandma, that as soon as you speak it into the world and you speak it into existence and you say you're mine, that it's yours. So I would go and I grab the equipment and I say you're mine, and that's been, ever since I started doing that, it's a subconscious, confident thing that sits, even when I'm nervous. Will I try to compete in 2021 Olympics? That's the goal. Let's see. Do I have any good workouts for younger gymnasts? You're 9. Ooh, that's a good one. I think the biggest one is trying to hit every body part, if you can. So sometimes we would do circuits. It's we want to touch our arms, we want to touch our backs, our abs, and quads, calves. If you can find workouts that activate all of that, so maybe that's push-ups, maybe that's handstand holds to kind of activate up here. You can do Supermans where you tilt your arms up and down so that hits your upper back and your lower back. Toe raises. I think lunge to kicks are always good because those are all kind of gymnastics tailored workouts. And also I think at the end of the day, it's doing what makes you feel good. don't put so much pressure on yourself, you know? Of course, it's stressful because it's tough not being in an environment that we're not, that we're used to. But enjoy what you're doing. Find a workout that's a lot of fun for you so you're excited to go to it every day. Let's see, we got some more. Aw. Yeah, Nicole, I love her. Aw, thank you, Chuck. Why is training with teammates better than training alone? I love training with teammates. That's a lot of fun for me because it's just sometimes we'll get a little kick in the butt because we're laughing too much. But I think that's the fun of it, especially my teammate Lainey Madsen. I can't stop laughing when I'm with her. Sometimes I gotta tell her to turn around when I'm going because it's too much. But that's what makes training so beautiful. Let's see. Probably covered this already. Did you feel ready for the Olympics this summer? Or are you happier that you get another year of training? So the timeline that me and my coach picked out, we weren't planning. I mean, the goal, of course, was to just grab all my 2016 routines and compete them this year. There were going to be some events where we would have to maybe take out a skill or two just to make it. Our thing is more consistency than difficulty, even though that we want both. So we want to make sure that we can hit, and we were doing everything we could to just feel confident, and we were on the right track. And I think the change in the Olympics makes things a bit difficult because especially with Corona and everything that's happening, my state is doing extreme social distancing where you can really only go out to grab groceries and stuff. So all my training is on pause right now and I'm having to condition a lot. So, yeah. All right, I got about 30 more seconds. Ask away. So, yeah. Do I miss being at the gym? Yeah, of course I miss being at the gym. I think every kid does, especially with what's happening nowadays. And I think my biggest advice would have to be to just trust the process, believe in yourself, and allow time to do its thing. And know that every practice that you have, even if it feels like a bad day, is taking you one step closer to exactly where you want to be. And that matters. So, I hope you guys really liked the reading of She's Got This. I'll see what the best way of leaving this up so that way everybody can see is. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys are staying safe. Please wash your hands, stay home, and be careful.